Namaste. Some people tend to lose their virginity at an early age. So, in this podcast, I have discussed the generic conjunctions and placements that can lead you to this kind of situation where you lose your virginity at an early age. This is a very generic overview or a generic indication that I have shared in this podcast. So please note that there may be some additional other placements in your personal chart because of which this indication may not apply to your situation. So this is purely for learning purpose to understand the generic indication of losing virginity at an early age. Secondly, virginity or to be virgin has more to do with your mental than physical. How I will explain. Let's say you are a virgin and you have been a virgin for many years. However, if every day you are thinking about sex, if mentally you are having all kind of fantasies, then you tell me, what is the use of this virginity? You better go ahead and do it rather than just to suppress your thoughts and desires. So the real virginity is when you have absolutely no such thoughts that are connected to sex or any kind of fantasies. So in this podcast, I have not only shared about the astrological indications of losing virginity at an early age, but I have also discussed briefly about virginity with many more insights. And at the end of the podcast, I have also shared a beautiful story, insightful story. So let's begin.
You tend to lose your virginity only when your mind permits. And so the very first important planet in Vedic astrology is the moon. The placement of moon in 12th house, 7th house, 11th house, 3rd house and 8th house invokes an interest in sex and sexual fantasies. However, this is not enough to push you into losing your virginity. The second aspect is the placement of moon in nakshatra. When moon is placed in nakshatras ruled by Mars, Venus, Rahu, Ketu or moon, then the indication towards losing virginity at an early age becomes more stronger. However, this is also not enough to seal the deal. The next big thing is the planetary conjunctions in your chart. If you have conjunctions such as Venus-Mars conjunction, Venus-Rahu conjunction, Venus-Sun conjunction, Mercury-Venus conjunction, Venus-Mars-Rahu conjunction, Venus-Mercury-Sun conjunction, or if you have a direct aspect of Rahu or Mars on your natal Venus, then the probability of losing virginity at an early age becomes more stronger. However, the buck doesn't stop here. The next step is to evaluate the condition of Mars and Venus in your chart. If Mars or Venus are retrograde and your moon sign lord is Mars or Venus, or your moon nakshatra lord is Mars or Venus, then you can expect certain out of the box sexual ideas hitting you now and then, and this can also add to losing virginity at an early age. Placement of Venus, Rahu, Venus, Mars in the 3rd house, 7th house, 11th house, or 12th house also leads to many sexual encounters, and thus the native seem to lose track of when actually he or she lost her virginity. All these highly sexual placements are triggered during the Mahadasha or Antardasha period of Rahu, Mars or Venus. Rahu, Mars, Venus and Mercury are the most sex-hungry planets. However, the boss of all these four is Moon, the mind. As I have always been stating, that Moon is the most highest sexual entity, and that is how your mind is. And so when Moon is in conjunction with Venus, or when Moon is in conjunction with Mars, or when Moon is in conjunction with Rahu, or Mercury is in conjunction with Moon, then the probability of losing virginity at an early age is more than otherwise. Now let's discuss the Nakshatras that are more sexual by nature. And before I proceed, let it be very clear that there is absolutely nothing wrong in being sexual, since we all are born out of sex, so we definitely should not condemn it. The first most sexual nakshatra is the nakshatra of Mars, and so Mrugashira, Chitra and Dhanishta. The second most sexual nakshatra is the nakshatra of Rahu, and so Shatabisha, Adra and Swati. The third most sexual nakshatra is the nakshatra of Ketu, Magha, Mula and Ashwini. The fourth most sexual nakshatra is the nakshatra of Venus, Purvashadha, Purva Falguni and Bharani. The fifth most sexual nakshatra is the nakshatra of Moon, Shravan, Hasta and Rohini. So now when you are born in a nakshatra ruled by Moon, Mars, Venus, Rahu or Ketu, then the sexual urge is there, but whether you have the required sexual drive is based on the conjunctions and placement of Venus, Mars, Rahu, Moon and their conjunctions in general. Losing virginity at an early age can be through your own temptations, or you might be forced into losing your virginity due to certain situation. When planets like Mars, Rahu are afflicting Venus badly, then through force you tend to lose your virginity. However, when there is no affliction to Venus, that is when Venus is not afflicted by Mars or Rahu, then you tend to lose your virginity at an early age due to your own sexual temptation and desires. Many youngsters label their sexual relation as an outcome of love, but usually this is not love, but infatuation and lust. When interest in sex is over, then couples break apart. So where was love? But mind is cunning. Remember, the mind is very cunning and clever. There was a boy and his mother had died when he was an infant, and his father had worked hard to raise him properly. Finally, the boy went away to college. His first letter was a disappointment to his father. It was a disappointment, but the old man did not know exactly why. Perhaps something in the tone bothered him. The letter read, "Dear Dad, everything is fine. I like it here at college. I am on the football team. I am in the best fraternity on campus. I got an A on my first algebra exam." After some thinking, the father was able to put his finger on the difficulty. He wrote back, "Look, son, I don't want to seem to be a silly old man, but there is something which would make me very happy. It isn't that I think you are ungrateful in any way, but I have had to work very, very hard to raise you and to send you to college, and I never had a chance to go to college myself. What I mean is this: it would mean a lot to me if you would say, we did this and we did that, instead of I did this and I did that. It would help me to feel as if I had a part in it all." The boy understood immediately, and thereafter letters came in the form, "Well, Dad, we won this game last Saturday. We got a date with a pretty girl. We are going to get an A in history." The old man took earnest pleasure in this sharing of experience. Days were sunny for him. One day, a telegram arrived. "Dear Dad, we got Dean's daughter in trouble. She had twins. Mine died. What are you going to do with yours?" This is what agreement does. You simply follow but miss to understand what the real thing is. The hilarious story is significant in many ways. The significance is in the fact that the son merely followed what his father had said and conveniently missed to realize what his father meant when he mentioned that it would mean a lot to me if you would say, "We did this and we did that," instead of saying, "I did this and I did that." The mind is cunning. The mind can make your life hell if you simply go on following without understanding. The mind knows what to use to its advantage, and therefore we see many followers who follow a certain faith missing the real thing and committing many terrible mistakes. It is a strange world. Man and woman sleep together, and when the honeymoon is over, they remember the astrologer. Then they rush to the astrologer and ask, "Should we marry? Is it going to last for good? Is it going to bring happiness?" Now the poor astrologer is wondering what kind of world he is living in. Honeymoon is already over, and now the couple is doubting on whether to jump into this legal institution called marriage or not. Those who are taking keen interest in understanding astrology should understand that times are changing. The very meaning of relationships is changing. The very definition of marriage is changing. And so you all have to get your basics re-evaluate before you reach to a certain observation. Marriage has become a showcase. It is no more a symbol of love. Rather, it has become a matter of social status. Yesterday, a young man came. He said, "I am young and I am looking for a girl to marry." I said, "Then what is the problem? Almost half of the population is of women. So you should find one for yourself." He said, "But I have one expectation." I said, "What?" He looked at me and said, "She must be a virgin." I asked him, "From which world have you come? You are asking and expecting the impossible." I am not saying that every man or woman loses his or her virginity before marriage, but the hard truth of today's world, especially in big metro cities, is that many do lose their virginity because marriages happen in late 20s or in their 30s, and the human body and mind cannot remain virgin for so long, and so sexual relationships happen. To expect something that is outdated is mere stupidity. The word virgin has become very rare in today's robotic world. Most of the women and men lose their virginity long before they get married. Small minds think about virginity. Liberal minds just don't care about such man-made obligations. They are just happy to love. But conservative minds will not understand. They will condemn the lovers. They will give long lectures on how to safeguard your virginity. I remember one such story, and it is interesting. Once it happened, a high priest was visiting a church and all the nuns were present. The high priest was very strict about maintaining virginity. It was a different story if he himself had remained virgin. But when all nuns came and the room was packed, he stood up and said, "All you holy nuns, if you all have maintained your virginity, then please stand up." Nobody stood up except one nun with a small girl in her lap. The high priest thanked God that at least one nun has remained virgin. The high priest said to her, "So it is only you who is virgin?" The nun said, "No, father, it is not me, but my small daughter who is just 1 year old. I am standing for her." Virginity is nothing but the play of the mind. Religions are compelling people to stay virgin. In reality, virginity has nothing to do when it comes to love. When you love, you simply love. Then you must not ask silly questions like, "Are you virgin?" Once a young man, and he must be really silly because he had been through 2 relationships, passionate relationships, and now when he was in love with a new woman, he asked her, "Are you a virgin?" And the woman looked into the eyes of the man and asked back, "Are you a virgin?" So you see, people have crazy expectations when they themselves cannot meet those expectations. Life is a flow. Men meet women and many relationships happen out of love. Women meet men and the melting, the merging happens out of love. It is natural. Understand the fact. Women are not products and neither are men. Products have labels, used, unused. You can evaluate products. They are lifeless. But never ever do the silly mistake of evaluating people the way you evaluate products. People have emotions. They love. They fall in love. They relate. They melt in each other, and that is perfectly human, natural. The idea of virginity is the idea of a fake society, a hypocrite society. Love knows no virginity. When you truly love a woman or you love a man, you would never ask silly questions like, "Are you a virgin?" When you love, you simply love. Small minds, intellectualism leads you to such silly questions of virginity, and in the process creates many hurdles for you, and you never are able to experience love in the true sense. Love is not for a coward, a man who keeps raising doubts after doubts. Doubt is death. Love is for a courageous man, courageous heart that is willing to jump into the unknown. Courage is the love affair with the unknown. Only a man who has courage can love. Truthful men or truthful women always say the facts on face because their heart is pure. They don't live in fantasies and hypocrisies. They understand life more deeply than the others. Sexuality and spirituality goes hand in hand. Don't be surprised because the deeper you go in sexuality, the greater you can rise in spirituality. Of course, the sexuality has to come out of true love, and then there is no sex in it, but just pure love, pure melting in each other. But this is a very deep statement, a deep subject. Don't just jump on my words. Self-realize the meaning that lies beneath those words. What is virginity in the true sense? Virginity in the true sense is when you are not thinking about sex. You simply have no interest in the matters of sex. That is in true sense virginity. What is fasting? Fasting is when you are not thinking about food. You simply have no interest in consuming food. You are engrossed in the name of the Holy Lord, in the divine thoughts of the angels. That is when real fasting happens. Else, you are fasting on the exterior and all the time internally you are thinking of food. Else, you are practicing celibacy and all the time in your mind there is this thought of sex. This happens because the desire is repressed. The more you would repress the desire, the more you would think of it. Think of it, try it out, starve for one full day and see what comes to your mind. Unfortunately, repressed emotions do not die. They are silenced, but they continue to affect the person. Controlled anger is going to erupt one day. Controlled celibacy is going to come out and create a scene someday. Stop controlling, stop repressing. The more you would repress, the more it is likely to erupt. Repressing desires is like sitting on a time bomb. One day it is going to blast and then you will call it fate. The only way out is to realize your desires. Don't repress your desires. Go through them. The very reason of your birth has been to fulfill your desires. How terrible it would be if you repress your desires when you are supposed to fulfill them. Religion has made it difficult for many to fulfill their desires. Religion has laid many rules and regulations that compels one to repress his or her desires. The process of controlling and repressing and disciplining is taught by all the religions, and because of their fallacious teaching, humanity has not moved a single inch. It remains barbarous. Any moment people start killing each other, it does not take a single moment to lose themselves. They forgot completely that they are human beings and something much more, something better is expected of them. By repressing desires, you are deceiving yourself. You are believing that you have become mindless, that you have gone the beyond, that you are controlling the mind, that you are detached, but it is an illusion in which you are living. The only way out is to live naturally and experience life in its totality. If you do something out of compulsion, then it is repression. If you do something out of your own belief, then it is liberation. Spirituality is about achieving liberation and not practicing repression. Repression of any kind is harmful to the body, mind, and soul. Allow yourself to experience whatever you are currently feeling, and you will set yourself free. Remember, you are going to learn only by going through your experiences and not by repressing the very opportunity of experiencing. Repression is not the answer. Resisting temptations is not the answer. Overcoming temptations is the answer. When you resist, it means it is there, existing within, and so it can erupt any day, any way. Always remember, unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Controlling is not the solution. Witnessing is the solution. When you are controlling, you are giving importance to that feeling. You are acknowledging its existence. When you are witnessing, there is no question of acknowledging. You are simply not there. You are just witnessing. Controlling is when you are experiencing it, being a part of that situation. Witnessing is when you are not experiencing it but observing. There is a difference. Try it out. Focus on your breathing. When anger comes, the breathing pattern is changed. Focus on your breathing. Just focus and synchronize your breathing. The anger will disappear. There is a very striking difference when you do something because it has to be done and when you do something out of love. Love cannot happen when you control your emotions, when you repress your feelings. Love happens when you set yourself free. Love is at the root of experiencing liberation. God can only be realized through love and not otherwise. God is love and love is real. When there is pure love, sex is not required. And even if you do sex, there is no thought of sex. It just happens out of love. Sex without love is ugly, whereas sex that happens out of intense love is beautiful, divine. Understand the difference. Remember the difference. Enough for today. Jai Sri Ganesha. Jai Guru.
ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः।